This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardinas, to use this as an educational material. As that being said, we're going to be starting with the presentation.
Good day, everyone. So, we are Group 3 and we are going to present Indigenous culture and traditions. So, first, belief system and spirituality. Indigenous belief systems often revolve around a deep connection to the land, nature, and spirit world. Animism, the belief that all objects, places, and creatures possesses a distinct spiritual essence is a common among many indigenous cultures. These beliefs system often emphasizes harmony with nature and respect for all being living being. So there are six system beliefs. First is animism. It means indigenous cultures often attribute spiritual significance to all natural elements, believing that everything possesses a spirit or soul. Second is sacred relation with the land. Indigenous people view their ancestral lands as sacred, maintaining deep connection and conducting rituals to honor and harmonize with the land. Third, ancestral reverence. Indigenous belief system involve honoring rather ancestors as guardian and guides, seeking their wisdom and blessings through rituals. Fourth, spiritual leadership and ritual specialists. Spiritual leaders and elders often serve as intermediaries between the human and spiritual realms, conducting rituals and maintaining spiritual balance. So, fifth, oral tradition and storytelling. Indigenous culture preserve cultural knowledge and spiritual teaching through oral tradition and conveying moral lessons and spiritual truths through storytelling. And lastly, adaptability and resilience. Despite historical challenges, many indigenous communities have adapted and revitalized their spiritual tradition, drawing strength their culture, heritage, and ancestral wisdom. So the next reporter will be Cadet Do.
Indigenous languages and scripts. The Philippines has 13 indigenous languages with at least 1 million native speakers. These languages include Tagalog, Cebuano, Ilocano, Hiligaynon, Waray-Waray, Kapampangan, Bicol, Albay Bicol, Pangasinan, Maranao, Maguindanao, Kinaraya, at Tausug. Next slide, please. Baybayin is a script that has historically been widely used in traditional Tagalog domains and in other parts of Luzon and Visayas in the Philippines. Prior to and during the 16th and 17th centuries, Baybayin is an abugida which uses a system of diacritical marks to associate vowels with consonant symbols. Next, please. Next reporter is Boss.
So I'm gonna report about the traditional arts and craft. So traditional arts and craft in the Philippines encompass the diverse range of practices, including intricate weaving of textiles such as the colorful patterns of the Tibuli tribe, pottery making techniques like the burning of jars of vegan, the intricate basket of the Ifugao people, wood carving seen in the detailed craftsman of the bulul rice god statues, and the vibrant beadwork of indigenous communities like the Igorot and the Maranao. These crafts not only serve as a practical purpose but also carry deep cultural significance, preserving the rich heritage and spirituality of the Filipinos' indigenous culture. And the indigenous arts and craft is composed of diverse range. So breadworks, baskets, those are all of the example. So the process of crafting is typically a commonwealth endeavor, reinforcement social bonds, and embodying shared values. It also holds as a sacred dimension, as many indigenous cultures view artistic creation as a spiritual practice, fostering a profound connection to the natural world and ancestral spirituals. And the next reporter.
Next part will be the rituals and ceremonies. So rituals and ceremonies in the Philippines are deeply rooted in indigenous cultures and traditions. So reflecting a blend of indigenous animist belief, indigenous spirituality, and influences from various religions such as Christianity, Islam, and so these special traditions and ceremonies in indigenous culture are like treasure chests full of stories and practices that has been passed down from grandparents to parents, then to the younger ones. So imagine it's like a family where everyone has a role, and these ceremonies are like the family unique way of saying this is who we are and this is what important to us. So picture a dance with the open sky with the beat of drums echoing the heartbeat of the community. Each movement in the dance, every rhythm of the music, and even the clothes wear during these ceremonies have a special meaning. It's like telling a story without using words, and everyone in the community understands the tale is being shared. So now let's talk about the healers. So we are a bit like the magical helpers in these communities. When someone is feeling unwell, not just physically, but in their heart and soul, these healers step in. They use the knowledge passed down through generations to bring balance and harmony. It's not just about making individual feel better, it's about making the whole community stronger and healthier. But you know, life changes and do so communities. Modern things like technology, new ideas sometimes clash with this ancient tradition. It's like trying to mix old and new ingredients in a recipe. So indigenous communities face the challenges of keeping their special ways while also finding a place them in modern world. It's like keeping a delicate balance between the past and present. However, these traditions are not just for those who belong to the community. They can also teach outsiders a lot about respect, understanding, and appreciating different ways of life. So it's two-way street of learning and sharing that make our world more colorful and vibrant. Next reporter.
So I am EC Cadet Celera Francis Gabriel. So pre-colonial societies in the Philippines were diverse and complex, with a multitude of ethnic groups inhabiting various regions and practicing distinct cultural traditions. These societies were organized into kinship-based communities governed by leaders known as datus or rahas, who held political and religious authority. So, economic activities centered around subsidies, agri- agriculture, fishing, and trade, while religious beliefs were animistic, with rituals and ceremonies conducting to appease spirits and ensure success. Pre-colonial Filipino culture expressed terrace farming and boat buildings. Social hierarchies existed, but individuals could ascend through acts of bravery or leadership. So, overall, um, pre-colonial Philippine societies were characterized by diversity, um, cultural richness, and technological innovation that laid the groundwork for later development in Philippine history. So that's all.
I'm EC Cadet Aquesta, and I'm Indigenous Resistance and Revolt. The Indigenous Resistance and Revolt are intelligent part of history, showcasing the resilience and determination of indigenous people in the face of the colonized operation, oppression and attempt at culture ensure. From from armed uprising to the nonviolent protests, indigenous communities are the globe hub fought for their rights and land and autonomy. Thank you. Next.
Today, my name is Engine Cadet Manzon Ephraim. So, on my part, I will talk about the colonial impact and cultural assimilation. So, colonial impact refers to the lasting effect of colonization on the societies, economies, and culture of a colonized region. This impact often includes changes in political structures, economic systems, and cultural practices. So, cultural assimilation, on the other hand, is the process by which individual or a group adopt the culture of another group, often due to pressure or influence. Can you get influence? Filipino culture influence from the dominant culture in the society. So I'll give you an example. So next slide, please. So here's the example. So in the Philippines, Spanish colonial rule introduced Catholicism. So the Roman alphabet and the Spanish loanwords significantly influencing Filipino culture and language. So and the American colonial period furthered this impact with the establishment of an English-based education system and American-style governance. So shaping the cultural assimilation of American values and practices in Filipino society. So these colonial legacies continues to influence Filipino culture, language, and society today. So can you next slide, please? On the other hand, I will talk about ancestral domain and land tenure system. So ancestral domain refers to the land, territories, and resources traditionally owned, occupied, or used by indigenous people, often recognized by governments as part of the culture heritage. So one example here in the Philippines is the concept of ancestral domain is exemplified by the Indigenous People Right Act IPRA of 1997. So which recognizes and promotes the right of indigenous cultural communities to their ancestral domain. Under IPRA, indigenous people have the right to manage and conserve their ancestral domain, including the right to determine how the resources within this domain are used and developed. So this law reflects the Philippine communities to protect the rights and welfare of indigenous people and preserving their cultural heritage. So next reporter, please.
Environmental stewardship and sustainability. What is environmental stewardship and sustainability? It's a little bit complicated when we hear it when it is connected by those two words. So environmental stewardship involves responsibly managing and caring for natural resources to ensure their health and longevity in practices in ethical practices like conservation and minimizing ecological impact. So sustainability in an environmental context means meeting current needs without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So let's say when we need something specific for our resources, we cannot compromise the future people from our own needs. It seeks a balance between economic, social, and environmental factors to promote long-term being together. Environmental stewardship and sustainability aim for our harmonious coexistence with nature while safeguarding resources for the future. So this is for more long-term effects.
We cannot just specifically look for something that's easy fix. So, could you please move the presentation? Move it again. So, indigenous ecological knowledge and conclusion. People, imagine people having big arguments about who gets to use a piece of land. This happens because sometimes the rules about who owns the land are not clear, and big companies might use the land in ways that hurt the environment. This creates for communities that depends on them for the homes or livelihoods. So those are called challenges in land disputes and exploitation. So where people are fighting over land and sometimes it's not being used in a good way, causing trouble for everyone involved. In the Philippines, we could have an example for the land disputes. So exploitations are a big deal, and people are often argue about who owns the land, and the rules can be confusing. Powerful individuals or companies such sometimes use the land in ways that harm the environment, making it tough for communities that depends on it. Indigenous groups face challenges protecting their ancestral lands, and historical hacienda system has left a legacy of land ownership issues. The legal system can be tricky to navigate, and those disputes often result in social and economic inequalities, affecting the well-being of many communities. Addressing these issues involve making fair rules, protecting the environment, and ensuring that everyone, especially marginalized groups, gets a fair say in what happens to the land.
So, good day. I'm Engine Cadet Casilis. I'm reporting Indigenous Ecological Knowledge Conclusion. Indigenous ecological knowledge is a body of knowledge, practices, and belief about the relations between living beings and a specific ecosystem. It is also known as traditional knowledge or traditional ecological knowledge. So, indigenous ecological knowledge refers to the unique understanding, wisdom, and practices that indigenous communities have developed over generation in relation to their environments. It encompasses a holistic and interconnected view of nature, including traditional ecological knowledge, biodiversity management, sustainable resources use, and the cultural, spiritual, and social aspect tied to the environment. I'll give you some examples. Seasonal calendars. Indigenous communities of have detailed calendars based on natural indicators like the behavior of plants, animals, and celestial events. These calendars guides activities such as planting, harvesting, and migration. And that's all. Thank you.